Welcome in to the 81st episode of the Sabermetrics podcast. My name is Bill. Alongside me, as always, is Walt. Walt, how you doing, man?
Oh, doing pretty good. It took 80 episodes to finally get us on video, but for the Sam Lafferty episode, we're finally on video.
Yeah, better late than never. Kind of like his performance this season. Played a wicked last 5 games of the season. That Sam Lafferty, but yeah, we finally made it on. And for people listening, this is also on YouTube, so you guys can see our bright and smiling faces. If you want to go over to the Sabermetrics podcast over on YouTube and subscribe there, we're also going to have clips and other videos coming out as well. So, really excited about that. Any other updates specifically before we get into the content there, Walt? We do have the live stream coming up for the NHL draft next Friday as well. That will be on YouTube. And it's also going to stream to Twitter as well. So keep an eye out for that. Anything else, Walt, before we get into it?
Oh, nothing too much. I guess we do have a JJ Peterka video in our in the numbers series that I'm gonna try to record and also add on our YouTube, probably on Saturday. So yeah, we got a ton of content coming between now and the start of free agency and even through free agency.
Well, I am looking forward to it. So let's get into the show. This will be Walt's second mock draft later on in the show, but we're going to go over a couple topics before that. So let's get right into it. So, Walt, we have the latest update on JJ Peterka, and this is from the fourth period and Dave Pagnota. I'm going to skip a little bit here, but read it out for anyone that's listening audio wise. Adams is believed to be engaged in talks with several teams about a number of his players, with the likes of pending restricted free agent winger JJ Peterka and defenseman Bowen Byram for the four are at the forefront of the discussions. Vancouver's mentioned in there. We also have the Islanders, Blackhawks, Rangers, Blue Jackets, Tampa Bay Lightning. Apparently, there is others as well that are targeting Peterka. He's voiced his disappointment with what's going on with the Sabres and kind of wants a change of scenery. I'm paraphrasing, what I've pulled up here. But what do you make of the latest of the JJ Peterka situation? Because it seems like the Sabres still aren't necessarily willing to trade him, but now they're doing their due diligence of listening and maybe coming to the realization that this is happening.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting, and I do think for those that think the Sabres have an internal cap, it will be an interesting situation to follow because if they were to make a move to save a little bit on the cap next season, it'd probably be trading JJ Peterka away. So I do think he's gonna demand uh, good amount of money in any contract negotiation, and I do think he also has a lot of demand in the trade market as well. So he's definitely going to be an interesting piece to follow. There's some rumblings that he's not the happiest camper right now, so it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds this offseason. And it's also going to be interesting to see how quickly it unfolds this offseason as well. Will this be something that gets done pre-draft? Like, will he get moved pre-draft? Will he get moved the first week of the season? Will he still be a member of the Sabres going through contract negotiations through August, like we've seen with Peyton Krebs the previous season?
Yep.
So it's definitely going to be, I think, the story of the offseason with the Buffalo Sabres.
Just want to impress upon people the thing that I've thought about the most is the word from Sabres management was we are saving for our young players to get their next contracts. Well, the biggest one was going to be JJ Peterka, and it doesn't seem like he's going to even make that. So it just kind of goes to show waiting and waiting and thinking you're going to be paying all this money to guys like Peterka. Well, he wants out. Quinn, he's not going to get a huge contract because things haven't gone all that great. Devin Levi has played well in the AHL, but at the same time, he's not going to be breaking the bank either. So saving all that money for one of the biggest contracts that you were going to give out to those young players, and he wants out. So I think it's a really tough situation for the Sabres, especially when they had the chance to spend the money. Then if you want to get into the whole Jeff Skinner buyout situation and if they waited on that as well, and I'm sure we can get into that in later episodes and later videos, but it's just a really bad look for the Sabres that your guy's coming off his entry level contract and he already wants out. So that's the latest with the JJ Peterka situation. Walt, anything else to add on that before we move on?
Oh, really nothing to add. I just think it's going to be interesting to follow, and I think it's going to be like it will decide the direction of the Sabres this offseason. Because I do think if they make a major trade, Peterka will be the main piece in that trade. And if they decide to keep him around, it's going to be a lot of money dedicated to him. So that they'll also kind of alter their spending plan somewhat. So whatever they decide to do, I think is going to dictate whatever else they do this offseason.
One last little topic on that is the Sabres are looking for NHL help. They're not looking for futures, no draft picks or prospects. They are looking for NHL help. So that is one positive thing to take away. Now we just have to wait and see who he might get traded for. So, Walt, our next topic here is Tage went on the Chemistrick podcast and talked about a bunch of different topics, but one of the biggest ones, especially for Sabres fans, is the hit that Stefan Nason hit late on him and the lack of response. And everyone, I'm sure, within the Sabres community already knows about this, but wanted to play this little video clip of Tage talking about it and just giving his 2 cents, and then we'll follow up with that.
A weird situation, to be honest with you, because when the hit happened, I didn't even know what happened. Like, I didn't see him, I didn't know what was going on. I just like kind of blacked out, came to, and then was kind of helped off the ice. But watching it on replay, yeah, I thought it was a little dirty. I would have liked someone to step in for sure. I was a little shocked by that. Our team is great guys, and they all said sorry and like should have done something. Like, even if we didn't see it or knew what happened, like we should have stepped in and at least done something. Which, yeah, I get it. Like, the game happens fast. Maybe you didn't know what to do in the situation or how to react. I don't know, because I wasn't in that situation, right? I was the one laying on the ice. But Lindy came in and it just said like that can't happen again. And if you see someone laying on the ice or someone gets hit like that, like, you better step in and do something. I think after that there was a great response, and I don't think we had another problem like that the rest of the season, which is good.
So, what do you make of Tage's comments there? I think he really walked the tightrope of basically saying like, I didn't like that. I can't didn't say it obviously, but I can't believe no one did anything. But at the same time, not bearing anyone. What were your thoughts on what Tage said there?
Yeah, I definitely thought he gave kind of like the media trained answer to that question, but at the same time, he did bring up how he's a little shocked that his teammates did not step in for him. And to be fair, I think he's right to be shocked there, even if they claim they didn't see the play. Like, why else would your teammate be on the ground like that? He obviously didn't run into one of the other four teammates on the ice because they're all standing around just looking at things. And there's Stefan Nason out there who's one of the more physical guys in the league. So if you put two and two together, you'd be like, oh, wow, my teammate probably just got laid out by this guy that usually throws dirty hits. So I just think it's crazy that they didn't respond. And I think that was kind of the perfect illustration for this Sabres team last season was just, that play right there. I think just seeing your star player get hit like that and having your depth guys, not be depth guys and come in and step up for him. I just thought it was crazy. And I think it kind of showed the problems that the Sabres had in their locker room last season. And, hopefully they're able to add, more characters to the team this season that stick up for their teammates that play a more playoff style brand of hockey. Like, I know I'm talking like a suburban hockey dad right now, but it's absolutely crazy that you wouldn't step in when your star player gets hit like that. It's just so different than even the 2007 Sabres that everyone loved. Like, they literally started a brawl because their star center got hit in a similar fashion. And this era of Sabres has Matthias Samuelsson just standing there and then posting pictures on a yacht with Jack Quinn a few weeks later.
It's not great, especially when Samuelson is getting slashed by Siegenthaler. You saw a little bit of that in the video, and he's still just standing there. So he said, we have a great group of guys, but how great can they be if you're lying on the ice and you're their best forward and no one's doing anything about it? Like you said, if some guy's laying on the ice, you have to do something. We've talked about it ad nauseum, but you have to do something. Grab someone, throw an extra punch. What if you get an extra penalty? That's fine. At least you're defending a teammate. So a really bad look. I think Tage has played it off pretty well, but you can definitely tell he was probably hurt and frustrated and bunch of other negative adjectives about that. But, he did the right thing about, not burying everyone, but also saying, look, Lindy addressed it and it's just not acceptable. He did mention that it didn't really happen the rest of the season. I'm not exactly sure if I agree with that. I think there might have been one or two other times where guys were in tussles and others weren't super excited to get involved. So, anything else on the Tage interview, or maybe about him missing out on the Four Nations and going to the Olympics and stuff like that that you wanted to mention before we move on to our next topic here?
Yeah, nothing specifically, but yeah, I would like to bring up that I thought it was a great interview with Tage. So if you guys wanted to check out that podcast with Cam and Strick, I highly recommend checking out to get to learn a little bit more about, one of the Sabres star players.
Absolutely. All right. And the third topic of the day is Florida wins the cup again. I did a live stream that night, so you could see how I was reacting in real time to it. I wasn't exactly happy because I was hoping the Oilers could pull it off, but nevertheless, Florida ends up winning. And the thing that is circulating, around Sabres Twitter and Sabres social media is Sam Reinhart incredibly sober. Wickedly, wickedly sober. Obviously gets tossed to Sabres Reinhardt jersey, and this was his reaction. So as you can see, for the people that are just listening, someone threw it up to him on the balcony. He, again, very sober reaction that he had, and he, kind of swats it away, throws his arm out. What did you make of that, Walt? I personally, I don't care. He's probably on like a 24-hour, I haven't slept, and I've drank about more beers than hours I've slept in the past 36 hours kind of thing. So I didn't really care about it, but wanted to get your thoughts on that before we talk a little bit more just about the Stanley Cup Finals in general.
He's obviously pretty hammered up there. So, like you said, I wouldn't read too much into it. And yeah, it's definitely kind of funny to see that someone like actually brought a Sabres Sam Reinhart jersey there. And it was pretty fun to see all those guys up there. It was also crazy to see. I know Mike Bunt on Twitter was fighting off Florida Panthers fans, talking about like how that championship doesn't mean as much to them as it would to people in Buffalo. And I think just seeing that crowd at the Elbow Room after the Panthers won the cup, and then just seeing like when the Bills playing the Dolphins in Miami and what the Elbow Room looks like was pretty funny, because there was like a lot more people at the Elbow Room when the Bills are in town for a regular season game. So yeah, it's fun to see Florida win. It's fun to see Sam Reinhart win, but I think it also makes you realize, like, man, how fun would it be to have that in Buffalo someday? Like a nice summer day, a parade. Like, it would be absolute insanity. Like, I can't even imagine it.
I would be worried for the people of Buffalo if any of the sports teams win.
Yeah.
That's going to be a rough day in the city for anyone that doesn't know a parade's going on or something like that. So yeah, look, I mean, Florida's the better team. It wasn't one of those situations where they almost choked it like last year, obviously winning it last year as well. But yeah, very deep team, very proactive team when it comes to bringing players in. And also, look, there might be a rental or two, Marchand and maybe some other guys, but they went for it. And that kind of shows their commitment to winning and realizing that they're in a window for that. So, I guess congratulations to Florida. It's not, obviously wish it was the Sabres, but good for Reinhardt. I think a lot of the supporters of Reinhardt, like ourselves, are happy to see him win again, and at least take the time to sign a Sabres Reinhardt jersey. So our fourth topic and my personal favorite for this episode is Walt's Mock Draft 2.0. So Walt, gonna go with the same order we had as last time. We're not doing any trades, not doing anything funky like that. So it's just gonna be the order that they came out in. Um, if you have the list in front of you, of what you said last week for your 1.0. Feel free to say who you chose then. I also have it up in front of me if you need me to, but wanted to give you the floor to start it off with the Islanders at number 1. Who do you think they are taking?
So I guess just to switch it up from the first week, I'm gonna go a little bit more chaotic, but still a realistic scenario this week. But Islanders at 1. That's still Schaefer for me. I still think he's the best player in this draft class, and I still think the Islanders need everything. So I still have Schaefer at 1. And think about it now, I probably should have made a graphic for this, but we'll just we'll just rip it off 1 through 10.
We'll be fine. I mean, we're gonna make a clip out of this, so hopefully people are enjoying the mock draft that Walt has come up with. I understand this is the 2.0 and the 1.0 draft is not online, but you're just gonna have to forgive us for that. So, number 2, San Jose. Who do you have them taking?
San Jose at 2, I still think Michael Misa. I still think he's number 2 in this draft class, and I still think he just makes so much sense for them. And, having him and Celebrini, thinking about how we did player comparisons last week, Celebrini is probably someone that's pretty similar to Misa. So if you could have not one but two of those guys, that'd be awesome. So I still might agree going Misa at 2.
All right. And we have the same as the last one. So we are patiently waiting for the chaos that Walt is going to throw our way. Hopefully it starts now with number 3, Chicago.
3 at Chicago. I I just don't think they even know what they want to do with this pick at this point. So I had them going Caleb Desnoyers for
Okay.
mock draft 2.0. I think he's someone that no, it's just hard to pinpoint like which teams are these guys because you see comments from like NHL scouts and stuff. So like which teams are the guys that are hyping up Frondell? Which teams are the guys that are hyping up Desnoyers? So yeah, I had them going to 3, Caleb Desnoyers, a name that I know I'm butchering, but I'll butcher every French word because I'm horrible at pronouncing French words.
It's just a little bit of me rubbing off onto you.
Yeah.
Classic can't pronounce last names over here. You had Anton Frondell at number 3 last time to Chicago. So there's our first change. Let's move on to number 4 with Utah.
Utah, I think with this pick, I think they're going Anton Frondell here. I think he falls to them at 4, and I think there's definitely teams that are picking in that top 5 that think Anton Frondell is like an Anze Kopitar or Alexander Barkov light. So I think just the fact that he's a center is really appealing. And I know their center depth at the NHL level is all right now, but they could definitely use some more pieces there. So I got them going with the center and Frondell.
All right. And you had Brady Martin on your last mock draft. So there's another change with number 4, Utah. Number 5, Nashville. You had Caleb Denoy. Gonna trust that you are saying his last name right. I can finally blame Walt if I'm wrong on something there. So Nashville, number 5, you had Caleb Denoy, but who do you have this week?
I have them. This is my first off the board pick, and I don't know if Nashville will be the team to do it, but I do think some team will do it before the Sabres, and I have them taking Roger McQueen at number 5. He's someone who has obviously been dealing with injuries, but I think there's teams that still really believe in his ceiling. So I have him going number 5 to Nashville.
All right. And Philly. Last week you had Philly taking Porter Martone. Who do you have this week?
So for Philadelphia at pick number 6, I have them taking Brady Martin. I think he's someone who will go pretty high, but I think there's a few teams above them that just have a name above Brady Martin on their list. So he falls to the Flyers at 6, and he's just such a Flyers hockey player that it's almost destiny that Brady Martin's picked by the Flyers. So he's my pick at number 6.
There's number 6 for Philly. Number 7, Boston. You had James Hagens on the last mock draft. Who do you have this week?
Number 7 for Boston. There's someone that needs absolutely everything. at this point. Sure, they still have Pasternak, but I think a rebuild's inevitable at this point. So, I'll still go Higgins for them. I think if he's there at 7, I think just his ceiling's way too high for Boston to pass on, and they just need high-end talent in their system. So I'm going Higgins to 7 at Boston.
All right, moving quickly on to number 8, Seattle. You had Radim Murtka last week. Who do you have this week?
This week, I part of me wants to choose a different defenseman for them here. So just for the sake of the mock draft, I'll spice things up a bit.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go Jackson Smith for them with this pick, defenseman out of Tri-City. I think he just has such an interesting profile. He's, a great skater. I think teams will think he's moldable, maybe closer to his NHL potential than a guy like Radim Murka is, and maybe a little bit of a higher ceiling as well. So I got them going Jackson Smith with the 8th overall pick.
All right, and the moment of truth, number 9, Buffalo. Had Jake O'Brien taken last week. What about this week?
9 with the Sabres, and this will be something during our draft night stream that I'll be keeping a close eye on is Higgins and Martone. I think both of them could fall, and Porter Martone falls right in the Sabres' laps right here at number 9. I think way too many people are looking way too deeply into his game and kind of tearing it apart, and I think that will lead him to fall. Maybe not to the Sabres at 9, but I do think it's a possibility. Corey Proman had him going at 9 at his mock draft, and I have him going number 9 to the Sabres in my mock draft 2.0. And I think the Sabres get someone who's not really a Kachuk clone, but he's a bigger body. And I think he does have the potential to play more of a power forward type game down the line. It'll be something he has to develop, but he certainly has the tools to do it. And even if he doesn't, he's an incredibly smart hockey player and puts up a lot of points as well.
All right, and let's round out the top 10 with number 10, Anaheim. Roger McQueen is who you had last week. Who do you have this week?
So 10 at Anaheim, I have them going with Jake O'Brien. I think he's someone who NHL teams really like, and I do think he's someone who will go in the top 10. It's just he's a big forward. He's young. He can play center. He put up a great amount of points last year. So I think he just has such an appealing package, and he has, a long runway to turn into a top 6 center in the NHL as well. So I have Anaheim going with him to round out the top 10.
So there is Walt's mock draft 2.0. Tune in next week for his 3.0 and also next week for the live stream during the NHL draft. We'll see how well Walt did. Anything else about your mock draft that you wanted to mention? Maybe one other player that you could possibly sneak into the top 10 that you wanted to throw out there before we move on?
Uh, I'd say I think the guys that I do think can slide in there, I think Roger McQueen's someone that a lot of people may not be mocking in their top 10, top 8, but I think he's someone who can go well before the Sabres pick, like rightfully or wrongfully so. So I'd say he's going to be my guy to keep an eye on for going, higher than expected.
All right. That sounds good. We'll keep an eye out for next week's episode with Mock Draft 3.0, and I'm looking forward to it. That pretty much rounds out all the things that we planned on talking about. Now we're just going to freestyle. We are kind of changing up how we structure the episodes. Going to try to get some clips out of these to maybe lighten the listening load, because I know listening to an hour-long podcast is a tough ask for people. So hopefully we can maybe squeeze it on down a little bit, and we're gonna work with it. We're gonna try to adjust stuff like that. This is all testing for this next upcoming season, including these live streams. That's why I was doing the just kind of chatting while the NHL playoff games were going on. We missed you the other night there, Walt, but at the same time it was pretty somber by the end with Florida winning. So think to be honest, we did fly through things pretty quickly. This would be the fastest episode that I think we've ever recorded, but I also don't
Yeah.
think people will be complaining too much. Is there anything else Sabres related that you really wanted to touch on that just simply can't wait for next episode? I was going to ask you about some other players, maybe some sleepers, stuff like that. I know we've gone over that before. Maybe any goalies in the draft, because I know we're firmly on the just take a flyer on a goalie every single draft. Is there any goalies that maybe you're looking at, or anything else draft wise that we wanted to go into? Of course, next week's episode, and then obviously a live stream, we'll be talking even more in depth about the draft. But I want to give a little bit more to those people that are looking for, I don't know, maybe some sleeper picks or a goalie that could be available that you're looking for. Who knows? They could take another goalie as quickly as they took Topias Linonen in the second round a few years back. So, is there any goalies that you're really looking at, or sleeper picks, or just guys that you really like?
Well, first I could give a quick 5-second preview of our draft background. So I'll put that on the screen real quick.
Okay,
Go back
there it
to our
is.
regular background. So for
Walt's
those
going
2
crazy
minutes
with the
of draft
graphic.
stream. Yeah. Yeah, so we got the graphics ready. We also have highlight videos for I think I saved down 34 guys. So
Wow.
I'm gonna
Okay.
try to do 6 more. So hopefully I predicted the first 32 picks, so we have highlights for everyone. But we got a minute highlight video for a bunch of guys. Save that as well. And yeah, in terms of goalies, I think the most intriguing part is that I'm kind of awful with, even attempting to scout goalies. I kind of just look at like save percentage, and
Mhm.
that has always led me down the loophole of thinking some guy in the Russian Junior Hockey League, the MHL, with like a 972 save percentage, playing against like a team from like Croatia or something, is going to be like the next big thing. And then it turns out once he gets promoted to the pro level, he has like a 872 save percentage. So I've fallen for that plenty, but I'm learning. And I think one guy that's a pretty highly ranked Russian is Peter Andrianov. He's on the CSK junior team in the Russia Junior League. So that's, one of the top junior programs there. 942 save percentage there. A lot of people consider him to be like a top 3 goalie in this draft class. So I don't know if he's someone that the Sabres would, try to pull the trigger on in the second round. Like, who knows how high he will go. I feel like as soon as the second round starts, you start having goalies go like way higher than you think they'd go. And there's some guys you never even heard of that start going off the board in like the third round. So maybe the Sabres look there. I know they have a lot of goalie prospects. I don't really think they have, outside of arguably Levi, I don't really think they have like an elite goalie prospect. So it could be somewhere they look. And Semyon Frolov too. He's the other top Russian goalie prospect in this draft. 921 save percentage in the Russian Junior League. Tall goalie too, for those that aren't into the small goalie prospects that put up crazy numbers. So he's another guy to look out for. Maybe, how many fourth round picks do the Sabres have this draft? Actually, I think I might have it right here. I know it's something like crazy, but they have like the weirdest pick layout. So that too is going to be interesting. Like, how will they manage this draft? Like, they have multiple fourth round picks, multiple seventh round picks. Like, I don't really, maybe trade up if you like a guy, because at that point, that's just like keeping a lot of change in your pocket. Like, you're probably not going to be able to use it for anything. So might as well just combine two and try to get a quarter.
All right. Well, there you go. I mean, if anyone's looking for a large goalie, there is one who's coming out of the CCHL. He is 6'8",
Oh,
205. His name is Trenton Bennett. Just looking at the Central Scouting, the NHL Central Scouting North American goalies. He's a little bit down the list there. Also funny, there are a couple guys from Rochester. There's a junior Sabres goalie, Ethan Phillips. And then there's another one for the Bishop Kearney Selects as well. His name's Samuel Dion Cataquiz. I'm definitely mispronouncing that. I think we all know this. This is not a surprise. This is not a surprise to anyone, okay? But I find that pretty interesting. I've always heard good things about the Bishop Kearney Selects team. I lived like 5-10 minutes away from Bishop Kearney. When I lived in Rochester, maybe a little bit longer, but played at the rink that they played in as well, and it seems like they had a good little system going on. So it's
They
good to
got a
see.
crazy program.
Yeah, it's really built up quite nicely out there in Rochester. So good for them. They got some guys on the central scouting board here. I think that
Yeah, have
one.
you ever seen that, I think she's 17 now, like Nella Lopusanova, I think. I might be pronouncing that wrong, but the Slovakian
Yeah, it
hockey
was.
player, she's, like, putting up
Sure.
insane numbers
Hmm.
as, like, a teenager and, like, playing alongside grown women, and I think she also won, like, a flag football award or something for Bishop Kearney as well as, like, the best player in New York State or something, so just an insane athlete, and yeah, so she's right there in Rochester playing for Bishop Kearney, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, they have quite the interesting system that they got going on there. It's not the biggest school. It's obviously private, but they seem to be doing really well when it comes to their high school slash private school league. And if you're in Rochester, maybe go check them out. So it's a lot of good draft stuff there as well. Anything else specifically when it comes to the Sabres? I know the Jeff Skinner buyout thing kind of came up again today. I know
Yeah.
you mentioned that. Is there anything else that we wanted to maybe dive in a little bit more on before we call it? Because we're about 30-ish minutes in and wanted to give people a little bit more before we sign off for the day.
Yeah, I think with the Sabres, I think that Jeff Skinner thing kinda plays into what we hope for them this offseason is that Skinner thing, like, people, like, saw my tweet today of where I, like, shown the breakdown of what the payout looks like, and Sabres would have had one less year of paying that Skinner buyout if they just waited till this season to buy him out, and they didn't use really essentially any of that money they saved from that Skinner buyout last season. They were rocking with, like, around 7 million in cap space pretty much the entire season last year. So it really made no sense why they couldn't just keep him on for a year where they barely iced a competitive roster and, just try to make that buyout more manageable for the next GM. But instead, we're kind of stuck with that. And, you know, people are asking like, why would they do this? It's literally just to save cash. Like that's the only reason they did it was to save cash. Like they saved, I don't know the exact numbers in front of me, but it was a few extra $1 million they saved versus buying them out the following off season, and they saved a lot of money compared to just letting him ride out that entire contract. So, in terms of Sabres fans, we don't get really any benefit on the cap hit. Like we got that benefit last year, but we didn't use it. So from here on out, we get like small benefits for 2 years, and then we're in the red for 3 years when we would be out of it if we just held on to him for the entirety of that contract. So I'm not the one paying the contract, so I hope my owner just spends as much money as possible. But sadly, we can't say that about the owner of our hockey team.
Yeah, good luck with that. Is my response to
Yeah.
that. So one last thing that I wanted to get your opinion on because this is something you released today on the Sabermetrics podcast Twitter account. It is a mock trade. JJ Peterka, Bowen Byram, and the 39th overall pick to LA for Brant Clark, Alex Laferriere, and the 24th overall pick. What was your thought behind this? If you were the Sabres GM, would you pull the trigger? If you were the LA GM, would you pull the trigger? And Brant Clark, is there a redundancy when it comes to the type of defenseman he is?
Yeah, so for me, this was a trade that I've kind of been thinking of, and just to make like the comments on Twitter be like less, aggressive, I kind of added in that pick swap there because I think two for two, this would also be a somewhat fair trade. And yeah, I do think it's fair that Brant Clark may not be the exact type of defenseman the Sabres need. Like he is a right-handed shot, but I think the offense in his game is so like underrated right now. I just don't think he's given a big enough role in LA. Like he was given power play time, but in terms of 5-on-5 time and just overall role, I don't really think he was given that. And there's some concerns with his skating, but it's undeniable. This guy impacts the game in a positive way offensively. Bowen Byram is a guy that puts up points offensively. He does not help his team generate more danger offensively. He's not a guy like Brant Clark. So I think the Sabres were still interested in rolling with 3 offensive defensemen. I do think Brant Clark would be the perfect addition, and I do think he's someone who has very, high-end potential. I still think there's a lot of runway left in his game, and, just look at the point production he put up in the AHL, 2 seasons ago. It's pretty insane. So I think he's a great player. I think he's a key piece coming back. And then Alex Ferrier, that's probably a downgrade in Peterka. He definitely has a lower offensive ceiling. I do think he's more of like a jackknife type of player. He's a guy who'll play in your PK. He's a guy who could play on your power play units. He's a guy who could give you 50 to 60 points a year and just play hard hockey. So for me, I think if the Sabres kind of want to rebrand their identity, you could start that with Alex Ferrier in the forward group. And then in terms of the pick swap, I didn't include this part of the trade, but that 24th overall is going straight to Minnesota, maybe packaged it with something else. I'm trading that for Marco Rossi. And, I'm kind of just rebranding this entire forward group, trade away Jack Quinn, package him with something for a right-handed defenseman. And, I think you could be cooking.
All right. I like it. I like the graphic. I like the explanation. Like I'm someone where it's like, look, if unless it's, Thompson, Benson, Tuck, obviously Thompson and Darlene are my untouchables, but pretty much everyone there's a few others where it's like you really have to give me a good offer, and that's your Tuck, that's your Benson. Tuck is maybe a little bit different if he's like, look, I'm not re-signing guys like
Yeah. But it
that's different.
sounds like he is though, which is nice. It sounds like he's, telling the Sabres that he's willing to listen to their offer, which I guess is other Sabres news. So yeah, I think like you brought up Tuck, I think he's someone you just have to keep around. I think
I do too.
if he wants to stay here, like just give him the money. Like 9 million in 5 years is gonna be nothing on the
Mhm.
cap. Just give him the money. You need guys like him. Uh, Getting rid of him would put a huge hole in the lineup. I think he's someone who can still be effective throughout his like early to mid 30s.
And he does the things that a lot of the Sabres players, especially the younger ones, either just aren't good at or aren't good at yet. Great forechecker, penalty killer, heart and soul guy, will drop the mitts if necessary. Probably doesn't he's probably one of those guys, he's not saying a ton in the locker room, but I'm sure he speaks up a bit, and I'm sure the guys listen. He's an older vet on the team. He's someone that understands what this means to the Buffalo area. I think even if it is an overpayment, I think you still have to I think you just still have to pull the trigger. I
Yeah.
know personally of more than a couple Sabres fans that are like, if they let Tuck go, I'm just done. And look, that wouldn't be my breaking point. I'm a sicko. I'll never get rid of the Sabres. I'm always going to watch, but that would be a very tough one to swallow, especially when you look at the return on that trade for Eichel, where Krebs really hasn't panned out the way you'd hope. I still think he has some talent in there, but losing Tuck and I'm probably not getting a whole lot back, especially because he would be going towards unrestricted free agency. I'm sure, some team would like to have him for a year, but it's not like you're going to get a huge haul for him. So, yeah, it's a tough situation if the Sabres run into any roadblocks trying to get him signed. But if there is any kind of advanced talks about Tuck possibly resigning, maybe we'll even hop on and do a quick little video specifically for that. That's another thing about the streamer thing I'm looking forward to is any kind of breaking news that seems worthy of us hopping on talking about for about 10 minutes. We can certainly do that too. So there's that as well. Well, I think that's a tight 40 minutes. I think that's pretty good for the viewers, the listeners. Again, if you are just listening, like our normal podcasts have always been, we're also now on YouTube. So if you want to go over to the Sabermetrics podcast on YouTube, subscribe there. Like I said, live streams coming up next Friday for the NHL draft. We're going to have another podcast next week before the draft. where Walt gives his third and final mock draft. I think that's pretty much it. All the updates on my end. So appreciate everyone as always for listening, for watching, and as always, Walt has the last word.
Yeah, I just want to throw out there, thanks everyone for watching as we, have our first recorded podcast episode, which is pretty cool. So if anyone has any recommendations for like what they want stuff added to, like I know Spotify, you could add like a video version of the podcast as well. I don't really know if people watch podcasts like that on there, but if that's something that people want us to add, feel free to reach out. And we're pretty flexible as we move towards this new video era.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks, everyone. We'll catch you on the next one.